today's session is, cultivating the coaching mindset. Where do I begin? And I'm first because today's track is about the psychology of coaching. So this is just a little bit about me. This is that street cred slide. So blah, 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 all these certifications, but essentially I'm an Agile practitioner, trainer, advisor, community organizer. Now it's interesting what Howard said just now around Agile coaches. So if you notice here, I didn't put that I'm an Agile coach into this line, and I do not know how I was going to share today. But the reason why I did not do that is because having done this role for quite a while now, last year I realized I'm not comfortable calling myself a coach until I pursue professional coaching. So today's talk is actually a reflection of my own personal learning. Now, if you look at the certifications on the right side, I highlighted the one in the bottom to be a new field certified coach. So that is an ICF accredited program. I'm currently in progress. And what I would like to share with you today in the community is a lot that's kind of shaping my understanding of what coaching is. Okay. So give me a moment. I'm just trying to get the gallery view out because I feel I'm talking to myself. So let me just briefly throw this to the other side so I can see all of you too, so I don't feel lonely. Okay. All right. So question, what is coaching? Okay, what is coaching? So I took this definition from the ICF, right? So International Coaching Federation. Now, if you look at coaching as a profession, that's been around for probably 30, 40 years. It goes back to the 50s and 60s. And, there are basically two large professional coaching accreditation bodies in the world, and one of them is ICF, right? So this is like the Scrum Alliance for professional coaching. Now, on the website, it states, coaching is defined as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their potential and maximize their personal and professional potential. Okay, cool. That sounds all good and stuff. But when I started coaching and I met some coaches, this is what someone told me. The answer is found within you, right? So how often is it that when we are coaches, we say, don't give advice, don't mentor them, ask them questions, the answer is always within the person. So when I first heard this, I really went like this, what the heck is this person talking about? I don't get that at all. I don't understand that. How is the answer found within somebody when they don't have that knowledge? I have that knowledge. So should I just tell them what they should be doing because I've done it, I have the knowledge, I'm going to give you the download, just do as I say, right? So I really struggled with this concept of coaching for quite a while in reconciling what does it mean by the answer is found within you, but at the same time, if they don't have the knowledge, then how would they know what they're supposed to be doing, right? So it took me quite a few years to kind of reconcile that. And I finally, I think, am getting it, which is why I decided to go into and partake and enroll myself in a professional coaching program. So this is what I want to share. So this comes from the program that I'm in called New Field. And one of the key models that they share is called OAR, right? So this is the New Field Network program. Okay, if you search for New Field Network, you'll find lots of information about them. So let's talk about results, right? So a lot of times when we're coaches, people engage us because they want results, a certain set of results. And if you think about results, right, is if a person's getting all the results that they want, they will never ever need a coach. Coaching comes in when we don't get those results. So what then happens? So how do we get these results is we need to commit to some action. So there are things that we can do in this world that will get us the results that we want. If we already have the results that we want, there's nothing to be done. Okay? That's pretty logical. And what happens if, say, we do something, we commit an action, we get the result that we want, what happens is we keep doing that same thing. This is what I've done before, it's worked for me, this is what I will do again. And the cycle, it reinforces itself to become a habit. So how often do we hear that, this is what I did in the past, it worked. So just do it again. Hear that quite a lot. Now, what happens if it doesn't work, right? So I took an action, it didn't work. So what do? I try a different action. I try something else, right? And if it doesn't work, I try something else. And if it doesn't work, I try something else until I either get the result that I want. Then I say, oh, this worked for me in the past, so I'm going to keep doing this, right? But what happens is, so this is called first order learning or incremental learning, right? I try something and didn't work. I tried something and didn't work. I tried this, it worked. I've learned something that if I do this, I get this. So I've learned how to get a specific result through an action. So this is called first order learning or also incremental learning. Now, let me pose a couple of questions to you. Oh, what happened? Sorry, finger this. So here's some questions. What happens when the actions that we take do not generate the results that we want, right? We've tried a bunch of stuff, we're still not getting the results that we want. That's the first question. Now, the second question is, what happens when we run out of available actions to take? All right, so I'm gonna give you a moment to consider this. I'm gonna look at the chat. Or how about this? Let's look at the chat. Is anybody kind of answering this or putting their own experience? What happens when we just run out of actions that we can take? I see phone a friend. What else is in the chat? Or if you want, you can just give up. So that's interesting. Give up, right? So we can say phone a friend, experiment. But here's the thing. What if we do give up? What if we don't have enough friends? Then what actually happens potentially is we get resigned. Like, oh, you know what? This can never be possible. This can never be done, right? Or we can get angry, right? Oh, this is a rubbish situation, or this organization's hopeless. There's nothing that I can do that will ever change anything, right? Or you can just say, you know what? Just accept things as they are. Nothing can be done. Just live with it. So then your results are basically stuck at that level, right? You've done all you could. You probably got resigned, angry, resentful, perhaps. But then those set of results will never change. You're kind of stuck where you are. So what happens then is if we get stuck in this loop, we run out of available actions, then we basically just kind of said, you know what, that's it. I'm kind of done. So here's where I want to introduce another factor here. And that is called the observer. Okay? So, how do we then get additional things that we could do? So someone in the chat I saw pop up says, you can never run out of available options. I believe that. But what we're limited by is what we perceive as the available actions to us. Right? What is actually available to us? And that's where the observer comes in. So how do we then generate new actions that could be available to us? Is by first changing the way we see things. Change the way that we look at things. And if you're able to do that, that then makes new actions available and possible, right? So this is called second order learning, or also transformational learning. Right? And if we're able to change the way that we see, it then enables many more possibilities. So this is what the crux of coaching is. So if I were to just look at this OER model, by giving someone advice, right? We're just giving them actions that they could potentially take, and sometimes that works. But if we're not able to change how a person sees the situation, and expand how they see things, they're always going to be very limited in the number of available actions that you could take, right? So an analogy I could use here when you're saying giving advice, right, is, someone's hungry, you give them a fish. But if you change their way they see life and see the situation, you're teaching them how to fish. It becomes a lot more sustainable. So let me break this down a little bit more. So you may have seen this before, called the ladder of inference. right? If you're in this field, you may have seen this. If not, it's okay. But if you're gonna look at ladder inference, this is kind of breaking down the observer, right? So if you look at the top, that's action, right? And with action, we get some results. But what happens between how we see the reality and how we get into available actions, right? So that's called the ladder inference. And this is again from the same, from Chris Aguirre, who developed the OER model. So if you look at the bottom of the ladder, that is experience, observation, reality. Now there are many things between experience and actions that we can take, and that is filtering, selective reality, right? Are we able to actually see the whole situation? Are we only choosing to see what we want to see? Next letter up is meaning and interpretation. Now, you can have an event. There are multiple realities here. So one of the founder of the New Field program, his name is Julio Olala. He has this quote, right? He says, whenever a phenomena occurs, we have multiple interpretations of what actually happened. But what we tend to forget is that our explanation of the phenomena then becomes our reality, rather than actually what has actually happened, right? So by making what we perceive into reality, we're basically putting on blinders here on what's actually possible. So once I have my meaning interpretation, right, what are the assumptions I'm making that is affecting how I interpret the situation, right, and the meaning I attach to the situation? What conclusions am I forming with it? And from my conclusions is, well, how does it shape my beliefs? And from my beliefs, that makes my whatever actions I have available. So by expanding the observer, right, by helping somebody see a wider scope of reality, by looking at different interpretations and expanding on meaning, by questioning assumptions, by forming different conclusions, by being able to adjust and adapt our own beliefs, will then make more actions available, right? So that's part of what professional coaching is am I able to help my client expand how they observe reality? So how do we do that? So we've powerful questions, right? So how many people here have heard of powerful questions, have used powerful questions? Okay, give me a thumbs up, or put a little emoji there. All right. Now I'll be very honest with you. When I hear powerful questions, I almost want to cringe, because and I'm also I'm gonna say this, and I'll say this because I've done it myself, right? I've used the term, I use powerful questions without actually understanding what it is, right? So in the arsenal, the coach's arsenal, questions is probably one of the most powerful tools we have. So let's get really, really good at understanding what that is. So question, what is a powerful question? So I like this, there are many definitions when I was doing my research, there's a lot of definitions, but I quite like this one from positive psychology. And it states, a powerful question ignites the imagination of your clients and helps them overcome boundaries, right? That's that's a powerful question, right? What is the purpose of a powerful question? And this quote is from Julio Olala, who's the founder of the New Field Network. And he says, wisdom is the love affair with questions. Knowledge is the love affair with answers. And one of the things I'm learning from this program is that we have, there's almost this addiction to having answers and knowledge. But the question is, how do we actually explore what's possible? And that's wisdom. Now, for me personally, I've gone through, a master's degree and master's in business, and I was a technical background. I've consumed hundreds of books on having answers, right? You ask me a question, I get an answer. You ask me this question, I get an answer. Now, after a while, I realized I was answering in a very confident way, but I wasn't actually conscious of what problem they were trying to solve. I was more concerned about knowing, having the answers, than exploring what's possible and what's the problem. So the distinction here with a powerful question is that we want to fall in love with the challenge. We want to fall in love with the problem. We want to fall in love with being comfortable with not knowing and exploring rather than jumping to an answer. Now, if you go back and look at the OER model, the answer many times is what action can we take? And if we're always falling back to the knowledge that we have, we're limiting ourselves with what actions then we can take, right? So what makes a question powerful? And I like what Marcus says here. So Marcus is a founder of Coach Partnership, and he runs the Newfield Network in Asia out of Singapore. And he just says, what makes a question powerful is that it serves as a launching pad for further inquiry. That is what makes a question powerful. So here's some of my tips. I'm learning as I'm kind of learning how to ask questions again. So number one, make it open-ended. Now, when I first learned how to, ask questions, in school, I was taught that a closed-ended question is something that ends, someone will answer as a yes or no, and an open-ended is a non-yes or no answer. Now, I want to just kind of add on to that. An open-ended question to me now, based on my current understanding, is that it empowers the person who you're asking the question to choose how they want to respond. Right? It gives a lot of choice in how they want the response. Now, if you look at then, on one hand you have closed, and the other hand you have open. Is your question limiting how they respond, or are they opening up how they can respond? Right? So, what's your level of openness? Now, sometimes you may want to ask a question that's not overly open-ended. Sometimes you want to ask a question where it's completely blue skies. Right? So, I see openness as being on a spectrum now. So how open is your question? The second one is, it's gotta be suitable to the context. Now, I've fallen this trap before. At one time, say I was coaching, I asked a person this question, and I got this mind-blowing thing, like, oh my God, that's like, you can see on their face, it's like, wow, like something hit them when you ask the question. You go, oh, wow, that's a really powerful question. I'm gonna write it down. And then the next time when you ask the question, nothing happens. Because the context matters. So what is context here? Context is what's the situation, right, that we're discussing at the moment. Another context is who's your client. Everyone has different personalities. Everyone has different maturities, right? So it's got to be suited to your client. The third one is, why are you asking this question, right? What purpose does the question serve in this moment? Right? So those are all the things under context that we have to consider as a coach when you're asking questions. Now, going to intention. What is the intention of the question? Now, if you look at, that's actually a source. If you Google powerful questions and coactive, they actually have a nice little document ready. And they break down questions by purpose, right? Is this question to clarify? Is this question to seek for more information? Is this question to reframe? Is this question to rephrase? Is this question to summarize? Right? So different questions serve very different needs. So if as a coach you're asking a question to ask the question to yourself is, why am I asking this question? What is the intention of this question? Right? So when I first started doing this, it was pretty hard. Like, I'm like, oh wait, before I ask the question, I gotta ask myself this question, I gotta answer it, then I gotta form my question. But it's a skill to build as a coach, right? It's just a skill to build as a coach, right? Is why am I asking this question? I got this tip. I had the pleasure of meeting Lisa Atkins once. And one of the things she teaches is wait. Why am I talking? If you're a coach, why are you talking? Right? Your client should be doing most of the talking. So as a coach, be very conscious, why am I talking? Right? How does me talking serve the best interests of my client? And then lastly, be curious. Be curious, stay in curiosity. Now this one's very kind of easy to put up there. It's like, oh, just be curious, right? Now, what I'm learning about myself as I go through this program is my level of curiosity affects my ability to ask questions. The more curious I am, the more questions become available to me. The less curious I am, the less range of questions become available to me. So as a coach, I have to develop and stay in curiosity, which sometimes can be very difficult, right? There's this little voice in my head that says, oh, I know the answer, I should just tell my client to do this. But again, as a coach, I need for them to see a need first before I give them the piece of advice, right? So going back to the OER model, one of the things I learned about, going back to the quote, right, the answer is within. If we give an advice to somebody and they don't see the need for that advice, that means the chance of them accepting it and turning into action is a lot less. But when we're able to help them expand the observer to see a need or to see a situation like maybe how you could be seeing as a coach, or how, you know, different perspectives that they could take based on the people that they work with, and then they go, all right, I see that now. Now that piece of advice matters, makes sense, right? That's when it lands. So we always start with the coaching stance in let's help our client expand the observer, take different perspectives, and then doing things a different way actually makes more sense and would turn into action and result. Okay, so what is then, we're going to summarize this part and then we're going to the exercise. So what's the role of a coach, right? So my coach actually shared with me, he said a little insight. He says, you know, I'll tell a little secret about coaching. Our role is to co-design with our clients. We help them get what they want by working with them to create actions that they can then take, right? So we're here to help facilitate them, co-design it with them, to work with them, but not for them, right? I'll do it for them. Another thing that I kind of reconciled was, you know, when do we share experience or teach, especially in the Agile coaching space? Well, I would say mentoring and teaching certainly comes into play, right? There's a time and purpose for that. But really where we need to start always is from the coaching stance. We always start with coaching, and then when another move becomes available, like mentoring would be more appropriate or teaching more appropriate, then I will move into that stance. But I always start from the coaching stance. Start from the coaching stance, be curious, work with your client, and then when the time is right, shift your stance. Okay, Sophie, so we're gonna go into activity now. Sophie, how much time do we have?
We have like 20 minutes, I guess.
20 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do, I probably need to adjust the time here so we can close up properly. So can we do this? Let's take 12 minutes. And I want to put us into breakouts. And what we're going to do is we're going to practice coaching, right? So there's going to be three roles. You can be a client and share a problem that you have. And I say, given the time you have, pick something small and easy, like I watch too much YouTube, or you know, I've been wanting to go to the gym and I haven't been going to the gym. Something light and easy. So that would be the client. Then someone can be the coach, and your role here is to just listen, be curious, and ask questions. Now, let me give you a challenge. Like, if you have the urge to give advice, stay with the question. Just ask questions. And then for the rest of you, just observe, right? And here's my role for you as observer, right? If you hear a question and you go, oh, wow, that's a really good question. Or if you see a question asked and you see the client goes, huh, that's an interesting response, write those things down, okay? So what we'll do after this exercise is we're gonna do a debrief, and I would like for you to share those aha moments. Like, oh my God, this was a really good question I heard. Or when the coach asked this question, I saw the client changed, right? I would like for you to share those moments back to the group, right? Because that becomes a learning moment. Okay, so I know that what we faced in the past events is not everybody is able to participate in the breakout. So how about this, Sophie? Given we have 90 people, let's do, I don't know, 6 to 7 people per breakout, so that at least there'll be 3 people in each breakout that will be able to participate.
All
okay.
Right.
All right, so let's do this. Let's do 12 minutes. And
Okay.
if you have enough people in your group, let's take at least 2 turns, right? So a client would, go for 6 minutes and then switch clients halfway through. All right, so as a debrief, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Now, my invitation here is to share any aha moments, as a client, like, do you have I've never saw it that way kind of moment? It never occurred to me. Share those kind of moments. Share any questions that you found to be like really effective. Share that question and why did you find it effective? And really, like, if you're observer, a coach, like what potential actions you want to take to deepen your own coaching experience and coaching skill set after today's session, right? So feel free to put in the chat, or better yet, unmute yourself and just share to this group. All right, we'll take 3 minutes for this. So I'll keep the space open for 3 minutes.
So it was actually really fun being an observer. I'm usually on either side of the table there, and it was nice seeing how someone else approaches the table. And definitely, at least for me, I would like to observe more.
What did you observe specifically that something that you learned by observing?
Uh, I, the differences in the response when I observed open-ended and closed-ended questions. There were a couple questions which were yes, no questions, and I observed one set of response from those, where other questions were very broad, and those went into more of a probably an internalization from the coachee.
Cool, thank you. All right, someone else.
I can go. Can you hear me fine? I had audio issues before.
Yes.
Right. I think an interesting thing from a coachee perspective that I found, it really puts the onus of the thinking on you when someone's asking you questions. So all of the ideas that were coming about, I did not feel like they were coming because someone was giving me ideas. I had to actually think of them myself. So a lot of the things that the questions did was guide me towards ideas that were coming up organically. And I was actually noting these down because it's a very useful tool, I think. If the idea is mine, I feel better about owning and working with it. If someone was just giving me an idea, I would just feel like I'm using someone else's skill set. So I like that about the questions.
Was there a particular question that you found to be effective in doing that for you?
Yeah, I think mine was around specifically coaching big groups or working with big facilitation sessions. And just questions around, do others face those issues? What kind of issues? It makes you think, and it makes you think, what can I do to solve this problem? So it wasn't a specific question, but I think just the process of being asked questions makes you stop and think, not just about the problem, but also about how you will solve it.
Cool. All right, I think I got time for one more person to share. Would anybody else like to share?
I saw a great use of the what other options are there as a powerful question to allow the coachee to open up their thinking.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Okay, so let's summarize here, and then hopefully I'll have time for some questions. All right, so key learning points, right? If you're thinking about a very simple way of looking at how do I coach somebody, it's our ability to observe plus available actions equals results, right? That's the OER. So our role as coaches is expand the O, expand the observer for the client. Second one, second order learning is more powerful than first order learning, right? Because it's expanding available action. Use powerful questions to seek wisdom, not to provide answers. While you may want to go into mentoring or consulting or advisory or teaching, we start from the coaching stance as Agile coaches. And then lastly, be curious, stay in curiosity. Okay, that's gonna expand your options as a coach. All right, so with that, if you want to stay connected, that's my LinkedIn. I want to plug a couple of APAC communities. So we have, I'm organizer for Agile Malaysia. For all you Malaysians who are not part of the community and you want to connect to a local community, that's Agile Malaysia. Otherwise, a few of us here, Quang on the call as well, we've started called Agile C for Southeast Asia. We had our first little conference in April. Looking to do more in that space. And if you want to stay up to date with our events, go to PTIX, that's like Eventbrite for Asia. And you can kind of follow us on those groups so be notified about upcoming events. All right, now with that, do we have time for questions, Sophie?
Let's take 3 minutes.
Okay.
If there are questions.
So Z,
Any questions? Go ahead,
yeah,
Christine.
I have a question. In terms of being a coach and when you're at the beginning of your journey, I know you said that the answer is within the person. How do you kind of stop yourself as a coach, almost kind of leading someone somewhere?
Right. All right, so Christina, thank you for that question. So I'm going to expand a little bit to share my experience of it to see if it resonates with you, right? When I first started asking questions, I would almost have in mind the destination I want the person to go to. And I'm thinking, how do I ask those questions to lead them there, right? So that's called a leading question. Now that has its use, but again, that means I'm leading that person to where I want them to go rather than discovering how else they could get there, okay? So the two things that happened for me to help me was one, being able to kind of shut down the voice, the little narrative in my mind. And I had to just practice not talking. I know as crazy as that sounds, just listen to somebody and not talk, right? So that requires a little practice. The second one is to develop a greater sense of empathy. And I know that sounds cliche, but really what happened was I just have conversations with people and just understand their perspectives and their experience and just listen to more of that. Now there's, so Sean Chang from a couple of days ago from Tribeless, he's created a game called the Empathy Box. Really great tool to really develop and listen to many more stories. And that actually gives me more perspectives that I can take. And that as well kind of shuts down the low voice in my head. Right, to kind of get over the whole leading question part. Does that help?
No, it definitely helps. Definitely helps. I get the empathy part, but like you said, sometimes your mind kind of goes, "Ooh, it might be this way." So it's just stop thinking. Ask just
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. Do we have other questions?
Hello, can I have one question?
Yeah, Kwang.
Yes, so my question is about, as an Agile coach, how do you make balance between being a coach and being a consultant? Also know that how do you judge your client by only asking questions?
Okay, I see another question from Muhammad Umar Farouk, who says, Z, can you please help me understand the difference between Agile and professional coaching? I think that's related to your question, Kwang, too. So the way I see it, right, professional coaching is about being able to help expand the awareness for someone else, right? Expanding the observer, expanding awareness, to take different perspectives, because if someone can see it for themselves, then they can take those actions. Now, the Agile coaching part is, if you look at the Agile Coaching Institute or the Lisa Atkins model, that includes teaching, facilitation, mentoring, lean Agile methods, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's why I see, the role of an agile coach is really a tough one because we have so many things that we have to be good at, right? There's all these different things we have to be good at. So I see, professional coaching as kind of another tool in the agile coaching toolbox. Now, what you say around how do we charge people is, I've seen this myself, okay? Being a coach and being coached. Sometimes just creating awareness for someone else to go like, oh, wow, I never saw it that way before, can be amazingly powerful, amazingly valuable. And this is what from my own research, that's what a lot of execs pay coaches for, is to expand their thinking and their awareness, because then that means they can make more types of decisions for the organization. Now, if I were to kind of take a step back from the agile coaching perspective, I would say we're paid for results, right? We're paid to bring results to our organization or our clients, right? And we can do that through a combination of coaching, teaching, training, mentoring, etc.